Okay, get ready for some serious drama, folks, because today we are diving deep into the world of 4th century Christianity.
4th century smackdowns, that is.
And let me tell you, this is a good one. We're looking at this text called Against Emperor Constantius.
Which is basically what it sounds like.
Right. The title kind of gives it away, but it's even wilder than you might think. Our author is Hilary of Poitiers, and he does not come to play, does he?
He does not. I mean, you do not want to be on the receiving end of Hilary's theological takedowns.
Talk about a diss track for the ages. He goes after the Roman Emperor Constantius II with both barrels blazing.
And Constantius, for those who need a little context, he's supposed to be the protector of the faith, right?
Yeah, you'd think he'd be getting, like, Emperor of the Year award from the church, but Hilary's not having it.
Not even a little bit.
Instead, he comes out swinging, compares Constantius to, like, the worst of the worst, Nero, Decius, emperors known for persecuting Christians.
Which is a pretty bold move for a bishop.
Right. But then he takes this really interesting turn. He basically says, hold on, Constantius is even worse than those guys.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Because we're not talking about Colosseum-style persecution here. So what's Hilary getting at? What's so much worse?
He's saying, look, there's this whole other level of messed up going on here. Constantius, he's not just using brute force. He's into something way more insidious manipulation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So brutal persecution, yeah, it still exists. But now you've got Constantius using things like wealth, social influence, even twisting scripture to, like, control the church from the inside.
So it's less about outward attacks, more about this internal takeover. He's trying to shape belief itself.
Exactly. And this is where Hilary's writing gets really powerful. He's got this vivid language comparing Constantius's tactics to something almost seductive.
Like he's luring you in.
And then bam, you're trapped.
You've got to give me one of these lines. What's a quote that really captures this?
Oh, I've got you covered. Ready for this. Hilary writes, "He does not beat our backs, but caresses our bellies. He does not banish us to live, but enriches us to death."
Whoa. He's basically saying Constantius is trying to buy off true belief, corrupting the church with luxury, empty promises, all that.
And that was a message that would have really resonated in this time period.
Yeah, talk about some seriously pointed commentary, especially for that era. But what was really at the heart of this whole power struggle? Why was Constantius so obsessed with controlling the church's doctrine?
Well, we have to remember, this is a time when Christianity is still defining itself, right? All these different ideas floating around about who Jesus is, his relationship to God the Father.
This isn't just some abstract theological debate, is it? This determines how people practice their faith, understand their place in the world, their very salvation.
Big time. And that's where things get really heated. And that brings us to one of the big theological controversies of the day, the debate over something called the homoousion.
Okay, I have to admit, that one sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Homoousion.
Can you break it down for us?
Yeah.
What's the gist?
So homoousion, it does kind of sound like, I don't know, some kind of ancient Greek monster, doesn't it?
It does have that ring to it, doesn't it?
But at the heart of it, this debate was about one fundamental question. Is Jesus, like, the same substance as God the Father? That's homoousion, by the way. Or is he just, similar, kind of like the knockoff brand version?
Which would be?
Homoousion.
Okay, so one tiny little Greek letter making all the difference.
Huge difference. Like, are we talking God 1.0 and God 1.1, or are they truly, fundamentally one and the same? And let me tell you, people had strong feelings about it.
I can imagine. That's a pretty big deal, not just some theological hair splitting.
Oh, absolutely not. This was about the very essence of God, right? It determined how people understood Jesus's role in their lives, in their salvation.
So it impacts everything, basically. How you worship, how you pray.
Everything. And Hilary, he's furious because he sees Constantius trying to use this incredibly complex theological question for his own political gain.
Which, let's be honest, is never a good look. Especially when you're the emperor.
Not a good look at all. And Hilary really goes after those who just kind of go along with it.
Yeah, he does not hold back on those bishops who seem to flip-flop depending on, what Constantius wanted to hear.
Oh, yeah, they become these kind of tragic figures, these religious leaders willing to compromise their beliefs just to stay in good with the emperor.
It's kind of sad. Makes you wonder what it would have taken to stand up to that kind of pressure back then. To say, no, this is bigger than politics. This is about my faith.
And that's what makes Hilary so compelling, right? He got it. He understood the stakes. This wasn't just about controlling some abstract doctrine. It was about controlling people, controlling their very souls.
And you were saying earlier, things could get really wild in these theological debates. You had that story about a council meeting.
Oh man, this one's a doozy. So picture this. Packed room, bishops everywhere. They're trying to hammer out this whole nature of God thing, right?
High stakes meeting.
And out of nowhere, one of these bishops, he just comes out and says, God, which I us. Like, implying there was a time when God wasn't.
Whoa. Okay, I see why you wanted to share that one. Talk about a theological mic drop. What was the reaction? I mean, people had to be freaking out.
Oh, I bet. Gives you a sense of just how high the tension was. And through all this, Constantius is over there trying to seize control of the whole situation.
Not exactly a picture of a humble leader, is he?
No, he starts calling these councils, right? But it's not about genuine discussion. It's about getting his way, stacking the deck.
So it's less about seeking truth, more about consolidating power, like always.
No, exactly. And this is where things get even worse. It doesn't stop with councils, unfortunately. Hilary calls out Constantius for some pretty messed up tactics. Like, we're talking silencing anyone who dared to disagree with him, right?
And this is where those infamous subscription papers come in.
Oh, yeah.
Which, to me, they always seemed like something out of, like, a dystopian novel or something, just really chilling.
Yeah,
What were they exactly? What were they exactly?
Imagine, right, you're a bishop, and you're being forced to sign with this document, basically. That's like condemning your own beliefs.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah, and the alternative is, I don't know, facing the wrath of the emperor. Not exactly a great choice. So that's essentially what these subscription papers were, this tool to root out dissent.
Constantius was basically like, sign here on the dotted line that you agree with me, or else.
Exactly. And it was all designed to promote his version of Christianity, silence anyone who disagreed. And of course, Hilary's not having any of it.
No way. Hilary sees right through it. Calls Constantius out for the power grab it is.
Oh, yeah. And he points out the hypocrisy of the whole thing, True faith can't be, coerced. You can't just force people to sign a document and then be like, okay, now we all believe the same thing.
Right, like some kind of religious contract?
Totally. And I love this one part. Hilary basically says to Constantius, do you really think Christ judges us based on our paperwork? God needs a written statement to know what's up.
It's such a good line. It's like, come on, Constantius, get real.
For real. He's saying true faith, it comes from within, right? Not from some emperor's decree.
It's a timeless message.
Yeah.
The idea that real belief, it has to be genuine, not from fear or politics or whatever. But, okay, what happens to Hilary after this? Does he get, the last word?
Well, Constantius actually dies before he can issue some kind of official clapback against Emperor Constantius.
Which, let's be honest, maybe that's for the best.
Yeah. Hilary probably dodged a bullet there. But that doesn't mean there weren't consequences. He ends up getting exiled for speaking out. But even in exile, his writings, they're still circulating, still challenging the idea that emperors should be the ultimate authority on faith.
And that's what blows my mind about studying these old texts. Here we are, all these centuries later, still dealing with these same issues, like who gets to decide what's true, especially when it bumps up against power.
Totally. And we see it everywhere, right? Think about all the ways people use religious ideas for political means, the pressure to conform, even in our own communities. The players change, but the game stays the same.
Exactly. And that's why diving into these historical texts is so important. It helps us see these patterns, these timeless dilemmas, and hopefully it helps us make better decisions in our own lives.
100%. Hilary's story, it's a good reminder to ask ourselves, are we going to let someone else dictate our beliefs? Or are we going to seek truth for ourselves, even when it's hard, even when it might cost us something?
That is a powerful question and a great note to end on. So, folks, we'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of, let's just say, 4th century politics at its finest. And remember, the search for truth, that's a conversation that never really ends.